Hi guys, welcome back to the channel today. Today we are going to talk about AAA games and where I see it going in the future. I think you're going to see less and less of these titles. There's a myriad of reasons why, and we're going to go over them all. Let's get into today's video by starting out with this stinker, and it is Concord.
Being a free gunner means, well, you're free.
Right on target. Yeah, you better run.
Free gunners have a shot at making something of themselves. A chance to be someone. All right.
Need a second to fix myself up.
Why not?
As you see, Concord was a hero shooter, and in my opinion, hero shooters are kind of dying off a little bit. You're always going to have your mainstays like Overwatch and stuff. But this game had such a long development cycle, and by the time it actually came out, people just don't care about this stuff anymore. And I believe they spent between $200 and $400 million on this, and it was one of the biggest failures in gaming history, and Sony took a bath on this. So pretty much any dime they put into this game, it went away, guys. Now the studio did end up getting closed down, so that is a shame for the people at the studio. No one likes to see job loss, of course. For example, is Warner Brothers took a huge hit on Suicide Squad, and I will read you the article from Bloomberg, guys, and it does say Warner Brothers Discovery took a $200 million hit after launch of Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. The troubled looter shooter released in February, and now we have a sense of what went wrong. A new report from Bloomberg details some of the studio's struggles behind the scenes, including inexperience with the multiplayer genre and a constantly changing vision. Rocksteady, the UK-based studio owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, was tasked with developing a Suicide Squad game in 2016. At this time, new Rocksteady employees were reportedly unaware that the studio was developing a multiplayer game. As Rocksteady is known for its single-player action-adventure games like Batman Arkham Knights, this caused many employees to leave, Bloomberg reports. This game's development didn't go smoothly. Rocksteady's leaders kept changing their ideas for the game, turning their focus from melee combat to heavy gunplay. Bloomberg reports the studio struggled with making its battles, levels, bosses feel less repetitive. One of the biggest issues for the live service titles, where players are asked to retread large parts of the map. The studio also wasn't accustomed to the level of complexity required to develop such a massive map and the 4 playable characters. This is just a product of large studios not being aware of what their customer base wants and being very indecisive. Now, another prime example of this is Dragon Age Veilguard. The higher-ups wanted a different type of game. They kept switching it on the fly, and it basically destroyed the Dragon Age franchise, in my opinion. Much like this stuff here, this is probably a loss that these studios are not going to make up again. I know the higher-ups at the studios are calling the shots here, but they really need to get out of their own way. Let some of the people at the studios take the reins, make games that are in their wheelhouse that customers actually want, and you'll see a lot less of this happening. But you know how it is. It's not just these two titles. There's so many this has happened. It happens to Call of Duty all the time. They'll start making something and change a direction. You know, it's just so common in today's gaming landscape. And when you're a AAA studio and you're spending, you know, $200, $300, $400 million on a game, they're not going to keep doing this. So we're going to jump into the actual development costs here. The numbers floating around for new AAA games are absurd, guys. You have Grand Theft Auto that's coming out next year is over $1 billion in development. They figure it's going to end up around $2 billion now, which is absolute crazy. So this game will have to go on for, you know, 10, 15 years for them to recoup all their money. Now, don't get me wrong. Grand Theft Auto will recoup their money. People love this. There's still a shit ton of people playing the old ones. It's just a very popular game. For them to put an investment like this is not a huge risk, in my opinion, for something like that. Kind of like the Call of Duty games, you know, they might spend, you know, $100 to $300 million a title or something like that, but they're going to get their money back. But if you are a studio that doesn't have a track record of doing this, like the one that produced Concord and even Rocksteady in the UK, you know, this could be the end for you. I have a feeling BioWare is probably going to be calling it quits here soon. I don't think the company's really happy with their past few titles either. I don't think anyone in general is. Honestly, they've been stinkers. So it's going to be a shame. A lot of these companies will go under because of this. You know, when you're producing video games that have a higher budget than Hollywood AAA titles, it's really going to be hard for you to recoup your money unless you have a long-term vision for the game. You know, Todd Howard from Bethesda's come out and said, yeah, they want the new Elder Scrolls to run 10 years. They wanted that with Starfield. It's not going to happen, guys. So they're not going to make a whole bunch of money off Starfield. They probably will off the Elder Scrolls just because the fans want it, and it's one of those tried and true games that can be modded. So people will stick with something like that. But if you are a newer studio spending that much money on a game, it's basically financial roulette here, and most of the time you're going to end up losing your money. Roll that into the next topic here is actually how many people are buying video games right now. Now, as you can see on the screen, 60% of video game players in the US are only buying 1 to 2 titles a month. Why is that? Well, the titles are, you know, $70, $80, $90, $100 depending on what it is. I see Switch 2 titles at our Walmart, and they're more than that. High development costs and the cost to consumers, they're hand in hand here, guys. The consumers can only afford to buy so many games. With these studios competing for a limited amount of revenue now, you're going to see less and less companies take a chance on these huge AAA titles. Now we'll continue with this article from Matt Piscatella. According to the data, 18% of players in the US buy a new video game about once every 6 months, while 12% buy one about once a year. The survey also found that 33% of players buy a new game less often than once per year, meaning a combined 63% of players buy 2 games or fewer every year. On the other end of the scale, 22% of players buy a new game around once every 3 months, with 10% saying they buy one roughly every month. Just 4% said they buy more than one game a month. Commenting on the findings, Piscatella suggested that those 14% of players who buy one game or more per month are mainly responsible for the continued trajectory of full-price games. Hyper-enthusiastic, price-insensitive players are really keeping things going, especially the non-free-to-play gaming space, he noted. Not a big surprise here, guys. What you're seeing is the casual gamer is not spending a lot on video games. They're probably doing a lot of free-to-play stuff. They might be playing through Game Pass as well and stuff like that. But they're not spending a lot on games, and they're only buying 1 to 2 titles a year. The lion's share is made up of a very small sect of people that, you know, have a lot more money, and they're just hardcore gamers, and they buy whatever they want whenever they want. Now, it's not a big surprise. The economies are bad, so I would expect these numbers to go down even further. Entertainment is usually one of the first things that people get rid of when there's not a lot of money floating around, guys. So the casual gamer might just simply not buy anything for the year. They might just play free-to-play stuff. You know, jump on Fortnite or Warzone or whatever you can get your hands on that's free. There's tons of mobile games and apps you can play too. You don't really need to go out and spend $100 on a single video game, right? So we have a real problem here. We have high development costs. We also have a consumer that wants the latest and greatest thing. They're not quite ready to spend a huge amount of money on that sort of product. Don't get me wrong, paying $80 or $90 for a video game is really expensive, but you have to understand the prices have ticked up fairly slowly compared to the actual inflation of other things. Now we have an article from Shuhei Yoshida. I will read it to you guys. It says, in an interview with PlayStation Inside, Yoshida said he doesn't know if Rockstar will jump at the chance to charge $80, though those price hikes were going to happen sooner or later. Of course, inflation is a real thing, but the problem is the wages haven't kept up, so we now have entire online campaigns begging Nintendo to drop the price. Alongside inflation, Yoshida also points out to ever-ballooning budgets in AAA games these days, where projects such as Horizon, Forbidden West, and The Last of Us Part 2 can cost upwards of $200 million to make. Everything in video games today is more advanced and more technologically demanding than ever before, and therefore requires more resources. In the end, the heart of the matter lies in production costs, and that's why industry actors are so keen to diversify their revenues in order to continue producing AAA games that the public buys before anything else. He goes on to say remasters and remakes are part of this move, as are games as a service and subscription platforms. So here's the thing with that, guys, and I do believe this is where the industry is headed. You are going to see way more remasters come out than actual new IPs and new games. Now, Halo Studios is planning on remaking all of the Halo games. You know, the collector's edition is going to be coming out. So they'll do 3, 4, you know, Infinite, Reach, everything. Now, they are not going to redo the multiplayer. It's just going to be single player campaign. campaigns and probably co-op experiences from what I have heard. So no big surprise there. They're just trying to cash in on nostalgia, you know, no different than Bethesda doing the Elder Scrolls, Oblivion. They'll be coming out with Fallout 3 as well. And I would expect to see many of these old, very popular titles that just need a refresh and new upgrades come out. You know, Dragon Age Origins, stuff like that. I'm trying to think of some other cool games that might lend well. Maybe the original Red Dead Redemption. I think that would be pretty cool as well. Especially someone like Microsoft who's pushing Game Pass. Want more people to sign up for those subscriptions. The easiest way to do it is to make these remasters and put them on there for the higher end tier, and people will come back to the platform. The thing about the remasters, guys, is there is a lot less risk in doing these. They know they're going to make their money back. But as these studios focus to these more money in the bank type things, they will less focus on making new IPs that are more risky and could cost them hundreds of millions of dollars going forward. Which part of me likes, but also part of me would like some new experiences as well. So I think one is going to take away from the other. The next problem here is these big companies are competing for everyone's time. Now, 10 to 20 years ago, social media wasn't quite as big. People didn't spend as much time scrolling on their phones and stuff, but the times have definitely changed. Also, with these changes, people's attention spans are just not what they used to be. So you can see games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex, Warzone. These are games that I would say go in spurts. You get that dopamine rush of playing the match. You know, it might be 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it's over, and then you're resetting. And that's kind of like how people doom scroll at night, guys. You know, people might sit and watch TV, but they're always on their phone. You know, they're looking at TikTok Reels and Instagram and stuff like this. It's just really made our attention spans a lot lower. So if you are a company that's making a huge open world game like the new Bethesda game that'll come out, or GTA that's coming out, you need those people to kind of migrate back to this sort of thing where, you know, you turn on your console and you can play that 3 or 4 hours and just focus on that. But I think that actual customer base is a lot less than it used to be, you know, 10 or 20 years ago. I find myself in the same way. I will turn on, for instance, I've been playing Fallout 4 again lately and kind of enjoying it. But I can only play it for like an hour or so, or maybe 2 hours, and I kind of get like, I'm a little restless. I want to do something else. Now, Microsoft did come out and say TikTok and Facebook Reels and Instagram is one of their biggest competitors. And we'll have a look at this Jez Corden article and see what Microsoft had to say about it. Obviously, the gaming industry does compete with TikTok and YouTube Shorts and the like. This is why you've started to see games appear in your Netflix app in reverse. Streaming media platforms have grown faster than gaming has. Social media apps like TikTok have grown faster than gaming has. When it comes to choosing what to do in your leisure time, you typically only opt for one hobby at a time, if indeed doom scrolling counts as a hobby. Search the web, there's a variety of analysis that put daily social media use at anywhere between 2 and 3 hours per person, depending on whose figures you are looking at. Gaming is generally regarded at a lower ebb than that, hitting 1 to 2 hours while simultaneously having a smaller audience, particularly if you separate hyper-casual mobile gaming out of the equation. No surprise there. In Microsoft's eyes, they are basically telling you they are competing for your time, and people just spend less time on video games than they do scrolling on their phone. I think everyone would agree with that analysis. The article goes on to say, doom scrolling, Netflix, or traditional core gaming obviously compete for our free time and attention. It's not really an activity you do at your work, generally speaking. And in those short hours you can truly call your own of an evening, the immediacy and ease of access of things like TikTok do seem to be winning out, at least to some degree. Companies are eager to point to forever games like Fortnite and Roblox at bucking some of those trends. But both of those kind of occupy the same social space as things like TikTok and Instagram Reels in my view. Fortnite and Roblox are hyper-social and hyper-cultural in their design and functionality. The throwaway mini-games Roblox is known for could be analogous to the scrollable algorithmic content you find in a social media feed, complete with in-game messaging systems and platform-exclusive memes and cultural notes. Microsoft could and should be offering experiences that align more closely with this. Roblox is obviously on the Xbox platform, but the Xbox platform itself could and should be the vehicle that competes with TikTok at all. For the cultural relevancy, Satya Nadella seems simultaneous, envious, and ignorant of. Oh, guys, if you are an Xbox fan, this is not looking good. The inmates are running the asylum at Xbox, and you can see their train of thought here. It's definitely not for the casual, regular game playing type population now. They're all about just hyper monetization of everything. So I think what you're going to see here is Microsoft is going to pivot their game plan even more. I don't think you're going to see as many of these big, high budget AAA titles come out. You'll probably see a few a year, and that's going to be it. I think they will focus on these easy to develop, low cost type games that can go out to the masses that, will keep people's short attention spans in spurts. And not so much worry about, people playing their game, 5-10 hours a day or something like that. About competition. Now, not only are they competing with Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok and all this for time, they're also competing with a lot of indie developers, small studios. Someone can basically make a game like Minecraft themselves and make billions of dollars off of it. All these small type games. I'm sure Roblox didn't have a huge budget to make. As more and more of these smaller developers turn out these really awesome games, it's really going to take away from these big budget titles. And as AI is introduced to these smaller studios and games, they can probably turn out these games like stink, guys. My personal opinion is some of the really good creative people need to splinter off and do their own studios. That's the only way I see this moving forward. Because if they're under the umbrella of a Microsoft, of an Activision and EA, they're going to be slaves to them. It's like anything, guys. Times do change, and I think you're seeing people's attentions wane for these big games for the most part, and they're kind of leaning into the smaller, quick satisfaction type games. Very sad. On that note, we'll see where the road takes us here. I have to admit, there's not a lot of games coming out that I am personally excited for. If you think there are some cool games coming out that I might like, guys, let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely check them out for sure. As always, guys, thank you for the input and sticking around. I love having chats with you guys about video games and the video game scene. We'll keep going on that. Please like, comment, and subscribe below if you like the content, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.